Hi, I'm here at WorldFest with Christine of the Wild Burro Rescue Sanctuary. Hi, Christine.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine. Tell me a little bit more about your organization and why you're here.
Well, we're here to raise awareness to the Wild Burro Rescue Sanctuary. We're located up in Olancha, California, 24 miles south of Mount Whitney on Highway 395. And we're trying to bring awareness to the plight of the burros and the wild horses. We have over 200 burros at the sanctuary right now.
Where exactly do you get the funding? How do you keep this going? What do you do there for this sanctuary? It sounds like an amazing venture.
It's very interesting. All the money is donated through private donations. We have no government funding. Everything's brought in by, we go out and try to inform the public about what's going on with the wild horses and burros, how they're being round up, and they're languishing in holding pens. So Diana Chantos, who's the president of the Wild Burro Rescue, has gone out there and brought in these burros and saved them from possible slaughter, being kept in holding pens for the rest of their lives. And she needs all the help we can get. We're always looking for volunteers, visitors to come to the sanctuary.
Well, tell me a little bit. Explain about the BLM. Explain how these end up happening. This happens that these animals are rounded up.
The BLM is the Bureau of Land Management.
And they're in charge of what?
They're in charge of all the managing the wild horses and the burros. Back in 1971, there was a Wild Free Roaming Act for the wild horses and burros, where 19 million acres were designated for these animals to stay in the wild. And that's what all the people voted on, that to have that enacted. Well, since that has happened, thousands upon thousands of horses and burros have been rounded up, put in these holding pens, and the BLM has turned around and leased these lands to cattle industry, the oil industry, and saying that the horses and burros are overpopulating these lands and overgrazing, which is not the case.
How can that be? I mean, that's contradictory of what the act was. How can they do that? And who is fighting it?
Okay, well, what they ended up doing is they take several herds in various locations, combine the numbers, and then you'll have so many animals in one area and say, see, they're overpopulating. We need to reduce the herds and bring them in. You cannot combine herds from various locations stating they're in one place, and that's how they're able to say that they're overpopulating the area. And in turn, what they want to do is they just want to take the animals off the land in order to lease back to the large industries.
These animals are indigenous to our country, correct? These are sort of like a landmark of the U.S. of how we were able to create industry in itself. So what was the purpose of the burro originally?
The purpose of the burro helped man do the gold mining, helped develop the railroads, helped develop the whole West.
So let me ask you, a lot of people get confused. Burros, mules, horses, Mustangs. Can you explain the difference?
Okay, well, the burros are what people think of as donkeys. When we talk about burros, these are the wild burros. People use the term as donkey in captivity if you have these burros. A mule is a product of a burro, a donkey, burro, and a horse. And of course, your horse is a horse. And the Spanish conquistadors brought in a lot of these horses that were here 400 years ago, even though we do have wild horses that were indigenous to this area. And they've been here forever, and they should remain free. We understand that we don't want overpopulation, but that's not really happening.
So when they're talking about overpopulation, are these animals destroying the land? Are they dying of starvation, causing problems for farmers? What's the real situation?
Okay, well, they're stating that they're overgrazing, which is not the case. And if you ever see a burro, they will eat just about anything. They're saying they're destroying natural water holes in that. Horses and burros do not destroy the watering holes because they'll drink what they need, travel another 25 miles, and go to the next one. Whereas you have cattle will come into a watering hole, and they'll just trample it and they'll just suck it dry until it's gone. And then that does destroy it, and then they just inundate the land and they destroy all the vegetation in that until they move them to another area.
So people show mules. They may show burros as well, as far as like some sort of hobby or something?
Actually, they do. Up in Mule Days, they have donkey races. I happen to have a burro myself, a product of a wild burro that was adopted through the BLM. His mother was. And unbeknownst to me at that time, I've always been involved in horses. And when we got this burro, you really need to have them in pairs. They're very tight family groups when they're brought off the range. And what happens is they get split up and they get very depressed. And their will to live just stops. So I ended up finding Diana Chantos, who runs the Wild Burro Sanctuary in Alancha, and I brought the burro up there. And once we started doing that, I saw her plight and how we need donations from people to keep this facility running. And then we have, our goal is to go completely green up there. We're running natural grasslands for the burros, and then to be able to rotate them from pasture to pasture, and it's as close to their natural habitat as possible. And it's a much better life. They'll stay there until the day they die, instead of being in holding pens for Lord knows how long, or sent off to slaughter, which a lot of them went to slaughter.
So let me ask you this. Can somebody adopt a burro if they seem like the correct kind of home?
Absolutely, and our recommendation is to always adopt in pairs. And then you won't have that factor where they get depressed and lonely. Not all burros will bond with horses. I happen to be very lucky. My burro thinks he's a horse, so I have a thoroughbred in Appaloosa, so he's with them and he does very well. But
so on the horse and burro breeding situation, will they breed with wild Mustangs, or the Mustangs a totally different gender? They're totally different species, but do they mingle?
Actually, they do. At the sanctuary, we have 4 wild mules, which in itself is a very rare occurrence. But some wild burro, a big strong burro, got into a herd of wild horses, and you have wild mules, which is a rare occurrence. That does not usually happen in the wild. It's something man-made. But mules are a very hardy animal, just like the burros, and they have so much personality. Picture of Diana Chantos. She's the founder of the Wild Burro Rescue, and she runs this facility with one other volunteer, other than ourselves, that we go up there on a monthly basis to help out.
Okay, so she's the person that actually instigated everything, and you can tell by her love of these animals that she truly has a bond with them, and it's her inspiration that has caused this wonderful sanctuary and project to occur.
It absolutely is. She came down from Washington State with 6 burros in tow. She came down to save some, because BLM told her, if you want to save these animals, you'll have to effectuate the live capture, and bring them in, and then we'll let you have them. And that's how it all started, and now we have over 200 of them.
What is your website, and how can people get involved?
Okay, our website is www.wildburrorescue.org, and they can go online if you want to donate funds. You can go online and donate any funds available, that you have. You can also come up. We welcome visitors. We need volunteers, and to please check out our website.
Be a great way to teach children about the history of the U.S. by coming out there, showing them historically how our country was able to be formed, especially the Wild West.
Absolutely it would. And I can say for myself, as a young child, my parents took us to Death Valley, and I saw many wild burros traveling through Death Valley. And now there are no more wild burros. Over 400 of the wild burros in Death Valley were shot to death.
So it actually has a different meaning, Death Valley. It truly was a decimation of part of the U.S. that we can never get back.
No, you won't see any free-roaming burros there anymore.
Thank you so much for what you do, and we hope that everybody will come out and visit the project very soon.
And here's one of our little wild burros.